In the fall of 1977, two men from the same family strangled and killed 10 young women and dumped their bodies in the Hollywood Hills of Los Angeles. They left no clues, no crime scene, and no motive. And as the death toll mounted, the city became increasingly panic-stricken. The case was to take a cop to the brink of obsession, to destroy his marriage, and become the longest criminal trial in American history.
You're not talking to some dummy. You understand?
Angelo Bono was a 49-year-old New Yorker who fancied himself as an Italian stallion. He had a deep loathing of women. Kenneth Bianchi, his distant cousin, was an all-American boy who had come to California for sun, sea, and girls. He was also a compulsive liar and a thief.
She don't like me.
They had a sick loathing of women and a desire to humiliate and brutalize them. Their cruising ground were the streets around Hollywood, a mecca for runaways, addicts, prostitutes, and the homeless. Together they would form a lethal cocktail that would kill 10 women and terrorize the city of Los Angeles.
KFWB's Jim Mitchell will report on the discovery of a nude woman's body found in the La Crescenta area and the ongoing investigation. Forecast for Los Angeles, it's going to be a beautiful weekend. It's a high tomorrow of about 77 degrees. Glendale police have another apparent murder of a young woman on their hands. KFWB's Cecilia Pedrosa has a direct report from Chevy Chase Drive.
Judy Miller was a 15-year-old prostitute who worked the Hollywood streets.
Hey, baby, how you doing? What's going on?
You guys looking for some fun tonight?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you working tonight?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Let's go.
No tax, right?
Yeah, no tax.
But, I'm afraid, honey, it's not your night. I'll wait a few days.
Hey, I didn't do anything.
You did plenty. Come on. Come on, you gotta come in. Let's go.
She would be raped, sodomized, and strangled, her naked body dumped in the middle-class residential area north of Glendale. In a city with over 800 murders a year, the killing of a teenage prostitute, Judy Miller, made very little news. It would take 3 more bodies. Yolanda Washington, prostitute.
Now listed as the Hillside Stranglers.
Lisa Kasten, dancer and waitress.
Victims were found in the hills surrounding Los Angeles.
And the killing of a white middle-class student, Christina Weckler, before the city could be shocked into taking notice of the Hillside Strangler. That day was Sunday, November 20th, the same day that homicide detective Bob Grogan was first brought into the case.
Oh, I remember the first call, never forget it. I was at home, it was a Sunday, it was November 19th, 1977. I was watching a Rams football game and I was really upset that I got called in on a murder case. You know, you're a day off, you're trying to, kick back, but I'll never forget it. I got called in and it was the case involving Christina Weckler. It was interesting that it was first reported to us as a possible hype prostitute body dump.
Looks like everybody in town's here.
When you hit a crime scene for the first time, the things you don't see are the things later that probably mean the most. And what you're really looking at is to develop some kind of feel for the victim.
Has she been,
Yeah, she's been raped and strangled.
Who found the body?
A kid in the neighborhood. He's over there.
Jesus, she looks like a kid.
Christina Weckler was placed about 30 or 40 feet off the sidewalk. She was nude, laying on her back. It was apparent that there were ligature marks on her neck, her wrist, and her ankles.
Must have been more than one of them.
These marks became known as the 5-point ligature, which meant that the bruising on both wrists, both ankles, and neck showed that she'd been tied up or bound before being strangled.
It was pretty considerate the way they laid her out.
In looking at Christina, it didn't strike me that she was a street-type person. This girl is not the run-of-the-mill prostitute gal. This is going to be a serious case. This is more than what meets the eye. At that point in my career, I'd probably already investigated as many as 50 or 60 murder cases, and this was more than the ordinary.
Later that afternoon, detectives were called to investigate 2 more homicides on the other side of the hill. Dolly Cepeda, 12, and Sonia Johnson, 14, Mexican schoolgirls who'd been missing for a week. The 2 dead girls were found on a rubbish dump by a 9-year-old boy who thought they were discarded mannequins.
They were seen at Eagle Rock Plaza on Colorado Boulevard on a Saturday. They had gone shopping. They frequently would go shopping together, 12 and 14-year-old girls, and they were last seen by a witness at a bus stop on Colorado Boulevard. End of story. Bodies wound up in a kind of a dump area where people would throw their refuse on the side of a hill. Nothing to go on their cases. Absolutely nothing to go on. Not a thing.
All 3 girls had been assaulted and killed in exactly the same way. The next day, Grogan arranged to meet the grieving parents at Christina's apartment in Glendale.
Nobody prepares you to discuss the death of their daughter with the mother and father. It's very difficult. There's no special investigative training that prepares you for that. You just do the best you can. It's a very difficult time for both the parents and the detective.
Christina's parents had come from San Francisco to collect their daughter's belongings. All Grogan could do was pledge to them that he would find her killer, or killers.
Chuck Weckler. It was a tough one. Obviously very proud and loved his daughter dearly, and it's very difficult to explain what has happened to their daughter. But you have to be careful about details.
Found out anything?
No.
Do you have any leads?
No.
Any witnesses?
No.
You would like to tell them everything, because I really honestly believe that the parents have a right to know. And parents at that point in time are very inquisitive. They want to know everything.
So what do you need from us?
If I could take a look at Christina's apartment, might be of some help.
Fine. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you.
I always had a thing for murder, for homicide. I think that's the ultimate, is trying to, put yourself in the shoes of the victim and trying to find out who killed him. But this one kind of hit me a little bit, because as the more time I spent in her apartment, I realized this is more than what meets the average eye. This is a very bright, intelligent young girl from a very well-off family, attending a good school, background impeccable. This is one that's the wheels start turning. Obviously what you're doing, you're looking at a sex offender. And I'm looking for some guy out there who gets his kicks killing and raping girls. I will always remember that day. I'll always remember that day.
November 17th. Todd and I are fighting. Tonight we broke up. I don't know what is going to happen. I care about him, but these fights are getting worse. November 18th. I spoke with Todd today. We're still having trouble. I don't know when this will end and where we're headed. November 19th. Todd made me cry today, right in the middle of the mall. I saw him going in and I tried to talk to him. He just yelled. I wish we wouldn't fight. I love him.
There was a boyfriend that she had a spat with that we leaned on big time. I mean, we went after him big time for 2 reasons. We didn't want to screw around with him if he was nothing. And if he was something, we wanted to get his ass. So, I mean, he took the brunt of us. You know, we really put him through the ringer. He had made a comment of a dispute they had in the diary, is what led us to him. And another girlfriend who said, yeah, they had falling out. No, but this guy he wasn't any murderer. But again, you have to positively eliminate him.
Recognize this woman?
I don't know.
How about this one? How about this one?
No.
That's your girlfriend, my friend. That's Christina Wexler.
We went after him, talked to him, discussed this relationship with her. And at that point, we're determining if this guy's a viable suspect or are we just eliminating him as a suspect. And one is as important as the other.
I thought she was flirting with a friend of mine.
So you left her there?
Yeah.
Where did you go?
I went home.
By yourself?
By myself.
Were you drinking that night?
Yeah, I had some drinks.
I don't think people understand that not only finding the suspect, but eliminating people is just as important. Because, I mean, that's a skeleton that'll hang in your closet all through the case if you don't have all the possibilities eliminated.
So, Christina's
The fact that he had accountability for his time and whereabouts certainly cleared him as a suspect, but in looking at him, he didn't fit the bill. What we're looking for at that time is a very serious type, serial murder type suspect. This was a very evil act by a very, very emotionally disturbed serial murder type guy.
The police had no murder scene, no motive, no suspects, and pressure from the media was building.
Here with a degree of trepidation.
Chief of Police Darrell Gates had nothing to offer.
That we have any substantial news for you, only if he provides it and the mayor means what he said. Again, I don't want to go into that kind of detail. Any of those kinds of things are possible.
The best thing we did in this case was stay away from the press. The press was usually handled at a public relations level. You get nothing working with the press on this case but grief. We even changed our radio frequency so when we were out in the evening following up on certain aspects of the investigation, they couldn't monitor our calls. Because once they knew what our call units were, they would look for that call unit on the air, and God knows they'd show up at an interview. They were everywhere.
One of the problems in solving the murders was the bodies kept turning up in different police jurisdictions. LAPD and LA Sheriff's Department were rival agencies and did not share information. All that changed when Sergeant Frank Salerno and Bob Grogan started to work together.
I liked Frank's method of police work. He was very thorough, very detailed, total opposite of me. Yet I had the responsibility to do the same thing, but I did a lot of things by the seat of my pants. And I did a lot of things out of gut reaction, which works for me. And I think the contrasting styles between Frank and I played well. I listened to Frank when he got into detailed discussion, and I believe he listened to me when I got into my gut reaction feelings. So I think Frank and I had good contrasting styles that worked well together. My private life was a mess. The Hillside Strangler case had a lot to do with my marriage ending. The tremendous pressure of the case had a lot to do with it. I was drinking substantially a lot of scotch. I mean, I would drink a bottle of scotch a day, you know. It was a lot of emotional stuff to carry around with you. Things that you can't go home and share with your wife and kids makes it extremely difficult to go home.
Yeah, about 5-10 minutes.
Hi, sweetheart.
I couldn't go home and discuss this with my family, yet I was concerned about my daughter's welfare. Well, my personal life was going in a handbasket. It was very difficult to resurrect it.
In less than 4 weeks, 6 girls had turned up dead, 3 on one day. All Grogan could do was theorize because the pattern of the crimes did not match the signature of a lone serial killer.
The thing that was very distinctive about this entire case was that the victims had no defense wounds. Here we have all these beautiful girls strangled and sexually assaulted with no trauma. no black eyes, no bruises on their body. So that led us to believe that somebody with a very good line of BS or a figure of authority got these girls to go along with them. From there, you hope for the next break. It's the unfortunate thing in working homicide, the next break could be the next homicide.
You want to ride? What do you think? We can give a ride, right? Where do you live, Far?
The killing of victim number 7, Jane King, a 28-year-old Scientology student, would send the city of Los Angeles into a panic. On November 23, 1977, Jane King's body was found in the foothills of LA. She was victim number 7 and the 4th body in 3 days. The city went into an uproar. Guns disappeared off the shelves as women armed themselves and took self-defense lessons.
Nobody stands very gently and puts their hands on your throat. They choke you and they put you down on that floor and you're down. It's this matter. And it is not a joke when they're doing it. Their intent is to harm you.
Anybody, any minute, any time could be the strangler, and you never know. So, I get scared when I'm by myself, so I work with other girls, carry weapons or whatever. In case, what if it is him? What are you gonna do? Have to fight him or something? Try to kill him?
After they found the body of Jane King, the LAPD and the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department added another element of terror with a warning. Because there were no defense wounds on the victims, they were looking for someone in the position of authority. The killers could be cops or someone impersonating cops. The warning was specifically aimed at women drivers stopped by officers.
Stopped by officers.
Be certain of the identification of the occupants, even to the extent of continuing to roll and asking to see identification and badge.
Well, it confirmed our belief because two-man operation, with all the factors now thrown in, lack of trauma, lack of defense wounds on the victims and all this now, could be 2 cops or 2 guys posing as cops. Confirmed our belief. There were serious investigations going on with Los Angeles police officers who were suspect because of some incident they may have been involved in or something they may have said to somebody. Because you got to remember, the city was pretty paranoid. So if somebody said, "Oop, I'm the Hillside Strangler," well, God damn it, you might well be. And if you're a police officer, you got investigated.
Not only were the police having to contend with bodies turning up every week, they were now having to investigate their own men. Thanksgiving week was utter chaos because the body of Lauren Wagner, victim number 8, was found 5 days after Jane King on November 28th.
Everything. Sweetie,
there really wasn't much Thanksgiving for any of the guys working at that time because the Lauren Wagner murder was on the 28th of November. That was a culmination of 7 murders in a very short period of time.
Let's cut this bird up, huh?
My wife didn't have a clue what I was doing or what I was going through. My kids didn't have a clue. I felt almost like an outsider in my own house. It's almost hard to explain how that happens, but it did happen.
All right, I'll be right there.
It's pretty tough for a woman to stay married to a guy who's never home. All those murders kind of came to a head, and we knew at that point that we had a very serious problem on our hand. We had a serial murderer. Lauren Wagner's crime scene to me was identical to Christina Weckler's. The girls even looked somewhat similar. Looking at Lauren Wagner, she was certainly not a street girl. Position of her body in a hillside area just off a road, there was very little attempt by the suspects to conceal this victim. The 5-point ligature marks were evident, very evident. You didn't have to get very close to see them.
The MO, or method of death, was exactly the same as the other 7 young girls.
Same MO?
It appeared at a very cursory examination that there might have been an attempt to electrocute her.
This was a significant addition to the killings. They were now experimenting with torture. Sex while being strangled was no longer enough. While he was there, Grogan got a call to go to where she was abducted, out in the valley, 26 miles from where she was dumped.
We had an eyewitness. We had a neighborhood lady, Beulah Stouffer. She lived across the street from the Wagner residence, and the abduction of Lauren Wagner took place right in front of her house. This woman was extremely distraught and emotionally disturbed. She felt that she should have done something about what occurred in front of her house and that Lauren Wagner, her neighbor's daughter, would be alive.
Good evening, excuse me. Where are you coming from this evening? Work. Oh, well, me and my partner, we got a situation going on. It involves a car that's very similar.
And we tried to convince her, Beulah, I mean, there's no way you could have prevented it, even understood what was taking place when you were observing it, so don't be punishing yourself. And she was really in a bad state emotionally, very bad state.
Similar to your type.
This is my car. What are you talking about?
Ellie.
She said that she observed a car pull over Lauren Wagner's Mustang. The car had a white top and a dark blue bottom, similar to a police-looking vehicle. Two guys got out of the vehicle. There was a conversation, some heated conversation, some resistance. And then she saw the two guys place Lauren Wagner in the back seat of this white over blue vehicle, drive off, leaving Lauren Wagner's Mustang parked at the curb.
No! Are you crazy? Stop it! No! No!
She felt at the time that it was nothing more than a party, some kind of a dispute. Nothing serious was taking place.
Beulah's eyewitness testimony was Grogan's first big break on the case. The LAPD immediately issued an identikit picture to all media.
Have so far failed to
Has been found in the Highland Park area.
Police psychologists believe he has a compulsion to repeat the crimes, and he will kill again.
The Hillside Strangler Task Force opened up business the following Monday in room 109 at Parker Center and became a bigger nightmare.
Pressure now is on heavy, big time. So what it does, it flows downhill, right? So now we go from 6 detectives to 100. Because I believe that if you have more than 2 detectives working a case, you're in trouble. They brought in 100 amateurs. We had some people that were totally incompetent investigating clues. 11,500 clues came in the course of probably 3 months. 11,500 different separate investigations.
Glendale police have another apparent murder of a young woman on their hands. KFWD's Cecilia Pedrosa has a direct report from Chevy Chase Drive. Another young woman has been found in the Highland Park.
2 weeks later, on December 13th, victim 9 sent the media into a frenzy. There had now been 9 bodies in less than 8 weeks. Kimberly Diane Martin was sprawled on a vacant lot on Alvarado Street within sight of City Hall, the council chamber of the city of LA.
Same situation.
I went to that scene. It was not my murder case, but at that point in time, it was definitely one of our murders. And when I looked at Kimberly Martin, no doubt, no question. It could have done it from a distance. 5-point ligatures were so distinctive, and again, absolutely no trauma on the victim. It was chaotic. We had to order the CBS helicopter to get out of the airspace to stop interfering with our photographer who in the police helicopter was trying to take pictures of the area.
From the CBS News helicopter, it was clear the killers had laid out the body for all of Hollywood to see.
These guys are good. Pissing me off big time. I think they're kind of shoving it in our face now. This substantiates 2 people more than you can imagine because they had to carry, this girl weighed about probably close to 140, big girl. They had to carry that body down this very steep hill that had a lot of growth of ice plant and brush around it, that if they had dragged her, it would have been, you would have noted. There was certainly no drag marks on the heels of any of the victims to substantiate the post-mortem injury on the feet.
Yeah.
Kimberly was unique. Again, a major change in MO for the suspects. Back in the city again. No street contact. They used a telephone. Kimberly Martin was a whore, prostitute. And she was called to a residence in Hollywood.
Yes, I'd like a girl for tonight. Blonde, sexy, long legs. I'd like her to be young. How much? All right. 114 Tamarind. Yeah, Hollywood, right. Kimberly? Okay.
Hi,
Kimberly?
Hi, I'm in. Sorry about the power being out, but
Well, that goes to show that they were more brazen. The fact that they took her to an apartment building in Hollywood and caused such a ruckus in that apartment where she was, where they were trying to sexually assault or attack at that time, that the sounds were heard in the building. There were several people who interviewed on that level floor where that apartment was, that reported hearing screams and a tussle going on there. And that was pretty brazen. In following up, we learned that she was an employee by this alcohol service, and then we traced to see if there was a call made for her services, and there was one. And it was made from the Hollywood Public Library in a public payphone. We sent Detective Rich Crotchley, and they fingerprinted the public phone booth and the area surrounding it, which is really a long shot. I mean, you're out taking fingerprints off a public phone booth. That means you're going to get everybody who's ever used that phone booth forever. But anyhow, it was traced back to that phone. When alcohol services get a call for service, they're very careful about, they try to screen their clients. And they usually don't take calls over payphones. They want that person who's calling for that alcohol service to have a residence or in a hotel. But the suspect who made this phone call over that payphone, the Kimberly Martin, had a great line of bull to get them to send an out call to an address other than that phone call. And that's what happened.
Two weeks later, victim 10.
February 18th, Cindy Hudspeth. Classic murder, Hillside Strangler. She had gone into Angelo Bono's shop for some upholstery work. Slam bam, thank you, ma'am. End of story.
Hey, how you doing today?
Okay. She walked into the lion's den. Didn't know it. They didn't even have to go out looking for her.
Think you could help me?
They did something very unusual here. After to dispose of the body, they drove it off Mount Wilson Road way up in the mountains, long way from home.
Deputies searched this area of the Angeles National Forest after Cindy Hudspeth's body was found in the trunk of her car last Friday. The effort continued on and off during the past week, and then it expanded today when cadets from the Sheriff's Academy were brought in to check the roadsides and the adjacent canyon areas. Cindy Hudspeth's body was found nude. There's been no trace of her clothing, her purse, her identification, or her credit cards.
And then the murders stopped. The normal body count in LA showed no more young girls dead from strangulation and sexual abuse. Weeks went by, then months. The task force dwindled from 100 to 30 to 2, leaving just the primary investigators, Grogan and Salerno. 10 women had died in 5 months. They appeared to be perfect crimes. There were no clues. Almost 150 detectives had conducted the biggest manhunt in the history of Los Angeles. It failed, and the killer, or killers, remained at large.
What we did know then was the reason it all ended is that the the two suspects had a falling out, and they each went their own way.
After 10 murders, Bianchi was enjoying the notoriety, and his behavior was becoming more and more unpredictable.
Bianchi, in December, right after the Martin murder, he went to the Highland Park police station and talked to a sergeant there and convinced him that he was interested in becoming a police reserve, and actually partook in 2 ride-alongs with 2 different sergeants of the Los Angeles Police Department. And during both of them, he was quizzing them as to the location of the crime scenes of the Hillside Strangler. And Bono just thought that was just absolutely bull. And that, you're playing games with my life. I think Bono was the controlling factor. And when he couldn't control Bianchi anymore, it was time to split. Bianchi off, doing all these capers with the exposing himself, making comments to girlfriends, et cetera, and then telling Bono about him. Bono just wouldn't have any of that nonsense. To Bono, killing was a very serious business.
Thanks a lot.
You know why I got you up here? I got you up here because nobody can hear you up here. You have a big mouth. You became a chatty Cathy. You know what that is?
Come on, we're not stopping it. Nah, you're just having a bad day. Come on, look.
A bad day?
Yeah.
A bad life. It's gonna.
And that's what put a strain on the relationship, because he goes back and tells Bono. And Bono is a very serious. Bono pictures himself as the mafia king, the Italian stallion head of the mafia. But after that, Bono says, "Get out of my life."
Walking away from you is not going to solve it.
And he does.
Huh? It's not going to solve it. If you don't behave yourself, I'm going to kill you. And that's it.
Kenneth Bianchi moved 1,000 miles north to Bellingham, a small fishing village in Washington state with just 6 detectives. He joined his girlfriend and young son and got a job as a security guard. He lasted a year before he had to prove to Bono that he could kill on his own. He lured 2 university students, Karen Mandick and Diane Wilder, to a house-sitting job in a wealthy Bayside neighborhood. There, he strangled and killed them. The next day, their bodies were found in the trunk of an abandoned car. The killings lacked the cleverness of the Hillside Stranglers' work, and Bianchi left a trail of evidence connecting him to the girls on the house-sitting job. He lied about knowing the girls, and his security firm set him up in an isolated guard shack because they knew he would be armed. When police picked him up for questioning, he remained calm. He seemed unfearful of being arrested for murder and acted as if he was a wrong suspect. But near the shack, they found Diane Wilder's coat concealed beneath a pipe.
I think you got the wrong guy.
His arrest and subsequent trial would take the Hillside Strangler into legal history.
27-year-old Kenneth Bianchi was taken into police custody last week in Bellingham, Washington. He was questioned in connection with the murder of 2 co-eds whose bodies were found stuffed in the trunk of their car. Police have not charged Bianchi with the murders, but they say they believe they have evidence linking him to the killing.
Bianchi consistently denied knowing Karen Mandick and said there must be an imposter using his name. But in his security truck, police found the keys to the Bayside house and a scarf belonging to Diane Wilder. In the stairwell of the house, they also found a pubic hair that matched a sample taken from Bianchi, and blonde hairs from Karen Mandick's head. When they ran their background checks, they found out Bianchi had recently moved from Los Angeles and had lived on Garfield and Tamarind, both locations of the Hillside Strangler. It had been a year since the last victim had turned up in the hills overlooking Hollywood. Grogan's relationship with his wife had completely broken down, and he'd moved out of the family home and into an apartment.
Los Angeles police
Grogan.
Yeah, this is Salerno. We may have just gotten our first break on this case.
Salerno had run a check on Bianchi's name in the LA computer and found it listed under 4 separate clues, including one that reported him brandishing handcuffs and a police badge. A task force detective had already talked to him back in November '77, but nothing had come of the interview.
Yeah, okay, when are you going up there?
While Grogan stayed behind to check out Bianchi's LA connections, Salerno went up to Bellingham and searched Bianchi's property. He found a young family and a girlfriend, Kelly Boyd, in shock.
How long have you and Kenneth been back together now?
Well, he came back up and we patched things up. It was going real good.
And has he been a good dad to Ryan? And how's he treated you since?
He's a wonderful father. He's been completely devoted to both of us.
The police felt concern for Kelly Boyd. They decided she was a decent person and that she was not involved in any nefarious activities.
What did you pull? Are you going to put any of this stuff back or what?
Yeah, certainly.
She was totally ignorant of Kenny Bianchi's other nature. Their initial search uncovered a turquoise ring similar to the one worn by Yolanda Washington, the first victim, and a necklace identical to the one belonging to Kimberly Martin.
Kelly, is this yours? You recognize this? Not familiar to you? Why don't you bag it?
This would become a crucial piece of evidence linking Bianchi to the LA murders. He denied the charges, saying he had no memory of the killings and agreed to be put under hypnosis. Only then, when he was hypnotized, did a completely different personality emerge and confess, not only to the Bellingham murders, but to those in Los Angeles.
What do you want? I'd like to talk to you. I want a cigarette. I don't have a cigarette. Give me a cigarette.
Over 16 hours of videotape were recorded, during which an aggressive alter ego named Steve emerged. Steve was coarse, foul-mouthed, and hated Kenny, his other self, for being weak.
You're not talking to some dummy. You understand? Smarter than he is.
If you had viewed that videotape, it was a Walt Disney production from front to back. It made you sick. I remember Salerno's comments, bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. The doctor who was conducting that, oh God almighty, the most unprofessional piece of psychiatry I've ever seen in my life.
Hi. Hi. Are you Ken?
Do I look like Ken?
It was the most self-serving act by a professional doctor to promote his own values on hysteria. I wrote him a letter afterwards, telling him what a despicable, unprofessional he was.
So what?
If Bianchi could convince the experts of a multiple personality, then he could enter an insanity plea and not stand trial.
It isn't Ken, is it?
No, it's not. It's Steve.
Oh, okay, Steve.
The more attention Bianchi received, the more he opened up.
See, I got your cake. Okay. You want to know which ones Angelo and I did away?
If you want to
think
tell
I'm
me
not going to tell you, huh?
I don't know, you can tell me now.
Huh?
This was the first time police had a lead on a second guy. Kenny Bianchi was innocent. It was Steve who killed the girls. Steve and his cousin, Angelo Bono.
Hey, man, it doesn't bother me any. I told you, killing a broad doesn't make any difference to me. Killing anybody doesn't make any difference.
Maybe you didn't kill any of those. I don't know.
Oh, hey, no, wrong, man. Hey, I killed a couple of these.
Well, which ones? You think you did, right? I don't know.
I killed her. Angelo killed her.
They mean the Wagner when Angelo killed.
This broad I'd never seen before.
Martin.
This broad I'd never seen before.
Hudspeth, you never saw them at all?
No.
Oh.
This broad I'd never seen before.
Robinson? Says.
This broad I killed. These two Angelo killed.
Wexler. Johnson.
This one I'd never seen before.
Angelo killed, huh?
This one I'd never seen before. This broad I killed.
Barcombe you never seen before. This Caston is the broad you killed, you say?
Am I going too fast for
Yeah,
you?
you're going so damn fast. I'm not that smart. Okay. I'm not as bright as you are, so let's cool it and slow it down a bit.
Since I enjoy your taste here and your interest, and I'm really, very pleased that you've taken interest in this, I'm going to do you a favor. Just borrow your script here, okay?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I'll do you a favor so that you don't get lost along the way.
Okay,
See?
all right. You do me the favor.
It's real easy.
Yeah.
What you understand is, this one I killed.
You know, at that point, you want to reach across and just take your .38 revolver out and blow us away. That would be nice. I always wish we had a magical weapon like that, because a piece of shit like that doesn't deserve the benefit of the judicial system, as far as I'm concerned.
Angelo will be across, okay? I'll make it nice and easy for you. He's my kind of man.
Okay.
There should be more people in the world like Angelo.
All right, the ones that Angelo's across, and which ones are you then?
I'm the X's.
Oh, you're the X's.
Yeah, you want me to write that on top for you so you can remember?
Why don't you?
Faced with compelling evidence by independent psychiatrists proving that his multiple personality was a sham, Bianchi withdrew his plea of not guilty by reason of insanity. In a plea bargain, the state of Washington dropped its demand for the death penalty in exchange for an agreement for Bianchi to plead guilty to the Bellingham murders and to testify against Angelo Bono in Los Angeles. 2 days later, Grogan got the order to move on Bono.
They had a warrant to search the home and shop of Angelo Bono on Colorado in Glendale. Bono is the cousin of Kenneth Bianchi, who's considered
So we do it. I remember that day was a very gratifying day because this son of a b****, in my mind, was it. He was the actual perpetrator of the two that may put this gruesome series of murders into motion. I think the magic formula of Bono and Bianchi together was primarily the movement of Bono.
Bono, you son of a bitch!
And I just reached over and I grabbed him by the neck and I slammed him against the wall. And I says, you know, you son of a... And I just kind of lost my cool. You would think we were bringing him in for a parking ticket. Incredibly under control. No emotion. No, nothing. Not even a smart remark to the police like, you pigs, I'll get you, or just a walk in the park. So cool. It was incredible. Bono was a street hard con kind of guy. Dumber than, but street smart.
Denying him.
So now we're sitting, waiting for trial. And we got a call from the district attorney, Roger Kelly. God rest his soul, he's dead now, but I hated the... He was a good prosecutor only if he had a signed confession and a smoking gun. But if it required work, Roger Kelly was worthless as tits on a bull. All of a sudden we find out that he's going to make a motion to dismiss on Angelo Bono 10 counts of murder because he's convinced the district attorney, John Vandekamp, that the jurors may not believe Bianchi. I was incensed. And of course, Vandekamp, who was the DA at the time, was a weak sister, had political aspirations, probably felt that Kelly, the DA, was right, that maybe I won't win this. And if I can't convict the Hillside Strangler, I may not get elected to a political office somewhere down the road. I mean, this is a big feather in his cap. This case is covered by every major newspaper in the world, and he can't afford to lose it. Why, that chicken son of a went along with Kelly. And I was in Ronald George's courtroom in Superior Court. We were all there. The prosecution moved to dismiss the charges against Angelo Bono. It was a good thing I had a little control. I wanted to go over and shoot Roger Kelly. I mean, we were like gone down the tubes because of somebody's ego. I mean, the political system in this country sometimes makes you sick, and this was a point in time where you got sick over it.
The following Monday, Judge Ronald George stunned the courtroom by denying the motion.
I felt that my obligation as the trial judge at the time was not to act as a rubber stamp either for the prosecution or the defense, but rather to make an independent determination whether dismissal would in fact be in the interests of justice. And having had the experience of having gone through several thousand pages of transcripts of preliminary motions, I felt that it would not be in the interests of justice to dismiss the case and that the case should run its course by way of a jury trial.
Well, I went in that courtroom Monday morning, and Ron George got up and denied the motion. You know, it's like my whole light bulb went on. It was the happiest damn day of my life. I ran down and bought a bottle of finest champagne that I could find. But I wanted to somehow, after all these years of work, say, Jesus, hey, thanks for allowing the system to work, Your Honor, because you're a judge with balls. Stood up under great controversy, you know, and did this. I think that's incredible. So we bring in the Attorney General's office from the state of California. We bring in two guys, Roger Bourne and Mike Nash, two prosecutors. We went over every piece of evidence.
A state attorney general is handling the prosecution because Bianchi changed his story so much, local officials didn't think they had a good case.
Roger Bourne and his team were given 2 months to prepare. They sifted through every single piece of evidence and witness statement, quickly deciding that what they had was strong enough to prosecute. In November 1981, the case went to trial.
And we told the jurors from the start that Kenneth Bianchi was going to lie to them, and he was also going to tell the truth to them, and that they needed to look at the evidence as a whole in order to convict Angelo Bono.
The trial lasted 2 years, the longest criminal trial in American history. The prosecution called 251 witnesses and introduced over 1,000 exhibits. The jury retired on October 21st, 1983. 10 days later, they convicted Bono of the murder of Lauren Wagner.
I would not have the slightest reluctance to impose the death penalty in this case were it within my power.
It was so emotional. I can't even describe it. I was afraid to look at anybody because I didn't want anybody to see how happy I was. I didn't want the jury to see that elation, you know. Also the relief that I had. You're still professional, you know what I mean? You can't go, yay, you know, like they do in the movies. People stand up and cheer when verdicts are read. I can't do that. I'm still a detective. I have to sit there and keep on. It's tough keeping it in, but we did it. Even though you got the verdict and you got the verdict you want, it doesn't change anything. You still have this tremendous feeling of passion for these people who suffered this loss. The fact that I knew that that son of a was never going to get out again was the elation, because here's a guy that loves his woman, and he ain't going to have any anymore. Now, I can bathe in that for years. I still have. I think that's fabulous. That poor living in that cell and only allowed 1 hour a day out to suck up fresh air. I think that's great. That's probably tougher than getting executed. It's nice now I have long periods of time where I don't think about it anymore. I used to think about it quite often. It's not pleasant memories, never will be, but the outcome is certainly gratifying. I met a very lovely lady over it, so that's a plus. My children and I are back together, but it was a tough one. It probably took a little bit of, a little chunk out of me emotionally than I would have preferred. But that's the way I'm built. I just, you know, it's the way I approach cases and the way I work cases. And this one sucked me in a little more than the other. You know, I think vengeance in this case is well served. God says that vengeance is okay. I believe it. I believe in this case that the families needed vengeance. No two guys earned it any better, any more than Kenny and Angelo.